How's it going, everyone? It is Andre Williams, and over here we talk stocks and we focus on one thing. Always protect your profits. And today we're going to be talking about Apple and we're going to be talking about Amazon. They do have earnings that is going to be coming up next week. And these are also two plays we like to get into when it comes to the Discord, and they're always showing up in the daily watch list. And one of the reasons why I want to bring it up to you as well, I want you to be aware of certain price levels as we go into next week, especially if you're thinking about playing earnings. So what I'm going to do in the video, we're going to go over the charts, and then we're going to be taking a look at the recent institutional ownership and short interest information. And if you're new to this channel, I just want to let you know we have timestamps down below inside the description. And then when we finish all of those parts to the video, then I'll be giving you guys my final recap at the end. So let's get into it right now. So we're going to be taking a look at the chart for Apple. Let's see how it performed on the day. So it ended up closing at 154.09, being down 0.81%. On the low, it tested 153.41, and then on the high, testing 156.28. When we take a look at the volume stats on the day, you can see we traded at 66.413 million shares, and the average volume over 10 trading days is at 71.459 million shares. So we had below average volume on the day, and we also seen a slight pullback in the stock. When we take a look at our chart, this is the hourly chart, and the moving averages that you're currently seeing, we have the purple line, that's a 50 EMA. We also have the orange line, which is the 21 EMA, and then we have the white line, which is the 9 EMA. So what we saw today, we had a sell-off inside of the market, but we were able to find support right at the 50 EMA. So this is a really good sign. So going into next week, if we can hold above 153.40, then I'm looking for us to actually form a cup. What would that look like? I'm going to put on my drawing tool here, and I'm going to show that to you guys. So this is what I want to see. I want to see a move like this. And I want us to go back to retest the high of the day at 156.28. And of course, as far as for my price target, as Apple goes into earnings, I'd want to see at the bare minimum 158. But we could get to the high and then want to consolidate, and then we get ready for that next move up. So that's what you want to add to your homework if you're interested in taking a look at Apple. The next point that I want to bring to your attention as well, if we decide to have a pullback and actually break through this 50 EMA, then I want to see support coming in right here around 152. We could see that there are buyers within this level, and when we get down to this range, we do end up seeing momentum in the stock. So that's another area you want to watch if we end up breaking through that 50 EMA. And then for the next level, if we decide to have a really strong sell-off, I'm expecting Apple to hold at least 150. But overall, as far as for next week, I'm bullish on Apple going into earnings. Let's see if it can get to 158. So we're going to take a look at the recent institutional ownership and short interest information for Apple. Scrolling down on the page, green rows indicate new positions, while red rows indicate closed positions. So we're going to take a look at the recent filings for the 22nd. Keep in mind, Apple is heavily traded and many institutions invest in Apple, so we're going to see a lot of activity. So we have Forte Asset Management LLC that purchased 5,323 shares, and we have Momentum Advisors LLC that purchased 36,173 shares. Now, when we take a look at the short interest, the off-exchange short volume ratio is at 58.90%, and then for the off-exchange short volume, it is just over 17 million shares. Scrolling down on the page, the short shares availability is at 10 million, updated 25 minutes ago, and then for the short borrow fee rate, it is at 0.25%. When we take a look at the history of the short volume, we can see for the close of the 20th, it is at 54.38, and then for the close of the 21st, being at 58.90. So it has gone up, and then when we take a look at the short interest percentage of the float being at 0.70%, of course, Apple doesn't have short squeeze potential. So we're going to take a look at the chart for Amazon. Let's see how it performed on the day. So it ended up closing at 122.42, being down 1.77%. On the low, it tested 121.35, and then on the high, testing 125.50. When we take a look at the volume stats on the day, you can see we traded at 51.308 million shares, and the average volume over 10 trading days is at 59.903 million shares. So we have below average volume volume on the day, and we also seen a pullback in the stock. Now, when we take a look at our chart, which is the hourly chart, here's what I want to bring to your attention first, the key levels. So we saw the high at 125.50. So going into next week, I want to see Amazon retesting this area. And the main reason behind it, if we take a look at our moving averages, we have the 50 EMA, we have the 21 EMA, and we also have the 9 EMA. And today we were able to find support off the 50 EMA. So knowing that we found support off of there and then we started seeing some momentum going into the close is very interesting, because I'm going to be looking for it to break back above the 9 EMA and as well as the 21, and then us retesting that high of 125.47. And as far as going into earnings, I want to see Amazon making a move to at least around 127. I think this is very possible. So what do we have? Very similar to Apple, that cup and handle approach. I'm going to show it to you where I see a cup forming here. So we're going to have this right here, and we're having this move up here. So that's what I want to see. And then we might have some consolidation here and so forth, and then we make that move up going to 127. So that's what I'm going to be looking out for. You guys can let me know inside of the comments if you feel the same way as well. We're going to form this cup, and then we're going to consolidate and make a further move. If we end up having a bearish day on Monday and we break through this 50 EMA, then the next area where I want to see support is right here around 120. And if 120 breaks, then I'm looking for it to come around here right at 118. In my personal opinion, I do not see Amazon going to 118 prior to earnings. I want to see it make that move to the upside at least to 127. So we're going to take a look at the recent institutional ownership and short interest information for Amazon. Scrolling down on the page, green rows indicate new positions while red rows indicate closed positions. So when we take a look at the recent filings, we're going to focus on the ones for the 22nd. We have some closed positions, but we have NSS Financial Group LLC that went in with some puts, and then we also have Momentum Advisors LLC that purchased 13,904 shares. Now, when we take a look at the short interest, the off-exchange short volume ratio is at 59.21%, and then for the off-exchange short volume, it is just over 16.5 million shares. Scrolling down on the page, the short shares availability is at 10 million, updated 28 minutes ago, and then for the short vol fee rate, it is at 0.25%. When we take a look at the history of the short volume, we can see for the close of the 20th, it was at 55.31, and then for the close of the 21st being at 59.21. So we could see there's an increase right there, and then when we take a look at the short interest percentage of the float being only at 0.99%, of course Amazon doesn't have short squeeze potential. So to give you guys my final recap for both of these stocks, let's start off with Apple. So as far as for my minimum price target going into next week, I would love to see it get to at least 158. Many people are looking for 160, but in my personal opinion, if it gets to 158, that would not be bad whatsoever. As far as what we saw overall on the day, even though the market did sell off quite a bit, Apple showed a lot of strength. It is still hanging around the 50 EMA when we were taking a look at our charts. And what do I want to see? I want to see us retesting the highs of the day and then making that move to 158 prior to earnings. So that's something you want to add to your notes. If we end up continuing to have a sell-off going into Monday, that's where we could possibly see it going down to 152 and then making a move down to 151. In my personal opinion, I am not seeing this, but of course it can happen. So that's why inside of the Discord, I always give everyone the levels to look out for when it comes to calls and as well as for puts. And as far as Apple's earnings are concerned, I'm expecting some good results. And I'm also expecting that the reaction is going to be good. We've been seeing other companies coming out with mediocre earnings, and I want to see if they're going to be giving Apple the same treatment. As far as for Amazon now, the short-term price target, I want to see if it can get to $127. There is a possibility it could pull back to $120 if we see weakness in the markets for next week. So that's one thing you want to keep in mind. And if it breaks through 120, then we want to see support kicking in around 118. But very similar to Apple, it has a very similar setup in regards to where it could recover. And that's why I was saying the minimum price target at 127 is not out of reach. It is definitely achievable. Keep in mind, both of these stocks have earnings on the same day. So that's why, as far as for the upside and as well as for the downside, keep an eye on those levels. Another point that I want to bring up in regards to Amazon's earnings, I'm expecting some good results. I'm not expecting anything great. We have been seeing companies coming out with mediocre earnings, so that's why I'm saying, as far as the reaction is concerned, Amazon needs to do well. I feel like they have no choice whatsoever. The prior earnings that they had been coming out with before have not been stellar at all, and many times we don't see a dramatic reaction. So in this particular scenario, considering that we are in a bear market, are they going to be giving Amazon some room to give us some mediocre results? Hey, we're going to have to wait and see. So overall, for Amazon and Apple, not only are these the stocks that you need to be watching going into next week, but if they end up putting up some solid earnings, it could bring a lot of momentum into the market. We also can't forget that we do have a Fed meeting as well. And what we want to know about, are they going to be doing 100 basis points? Or are they going to be sticking with 75 basis points? So I want to make sure that you guys are keeping your ears to the streets for that. And also, we do have the GDP numbers that are going to be coming out. Again, next week is going to be volatile, but I'm expecting both of these stocks to show us some upside. So whether you're a trader or you're an investor in these markets, just make sure you have a strategy that is right for you and what will give you the most peace of mind. The last thing that you want to do is to get into a position and then you start worrying and start thinking about, hey, did I make the right investment? Do your homework. Do your due diligence. This is very important. I hope you enjoyed this video, and let's see how these stocks perform going into next week, and let's see how their earnings turn out.